You've seen Themis before, even if you've never heard her name. She's the blindfolded woman holding scales outside nearly every courthouse in the modern world. This is the story of the Titaness who represented cosmic order so completely that Zeus didn't defeat her, imprison her, or replace her. He sat her beside his own throne and married her instead, and, according to one lost epic, even conspired with her to start the Trojan War. Themis was a Titaness, daughter of Ouranos and Gaia, personification of divine law, natural order, and the fundamental sense of how things ought to be. She's often distinguished from later, more specific concepts of written human law. Themis represents something deeper and older, the underlying order the universe itself is supposed to follow, independent of any particular ruler's decrees. Her name itself became a working word in the language. In Homer, the plural Themistes refers to the actual rulings and customary judgments a king hands down, meaning every time an ancient Greek king pronounced a verdict, he was, linguistically, invoking her directly, whether he meant to or not. Her authority extended into two more specific customs the Greeks considered sacred. Xenia, the guest-host relationship that obligated total strangers to offer shelter and protection to travelers, and Horcos, the binding power of a sworn oath. Breaking either wasn't just bad manners in the ancient Greek mind. It was a direct violation of the order Themis herself upheld, which is part of why myths involving betrayed hospitality or broken oaths so often end in catastrophic divine punishment. Unlike nearly every other Titan we've covered this season, Themis wasn't defeated, imprisoned, or punished after the Titanomachy. According to Hesiod, Zeus actively chose her as one of his wives following the war, making her one of the very few Titans the new king of the gods didn't just spare, but deliberately elevated into his own inner circle. The poet Pindar goes further, describing Themis as the first goddess ever brought up to Olympus to sit beside Zeus's own throne, present at the founding of the new order rather than merely tolerated within it. Pindar even gives her a specific epithet for this role, Themis of good counsel, invoked whenever the gods needed their most consequential decisions, grounded in something more durable than Zeus's will alone. It's a detail that says something important. Even Zeus, having just overthrown an entire generation of Titans, still needed someone who represented genuine cosmic order standing beside him, literally at his side rather than beneath his authority. With Zeus, Themis became mother to two of the most consequential groups of deities in the entire pantheon. The Horae, or seasons, governed the proper timing and order of the natural world, and in most traditions numbered exactly 3, each with her own name and portfolio. Eunomia, meaning good order, Dike, meaning justice, and Irene, meaning peace, meaning the goddess of cosmic order gave birth to daughters who each personify one specific piece of what order actually requires to function. Dike, in particular, developed a mythology distinct from her mother's. According to the poet Aratus, during the Golden Age, Dike lived openly among mortals, walking the earth and speaking with humans directly. As each successive age grew more violent and corrupt, bronze, then iron, she withdrew further from human contact, until she finally abandoned the earth entirely and ascended into the sky, where she's identified with the constellation Virgo, making her the last of the gods to give up on humanity. Far more significant than the Horae, mythologically, were the Moirai, the 3 fates, Clotho, who spins the thread of life, Lachesis, who measures its length, and Atropos, who cuts it. The fates determined the lifespan and destiny of every being in existence, including the other gods. A power so absolute that even Zeus himself was traditionally described as subject to their decisions rather than above them. Not every ancient source agrees on where the fates actually come from either. Hesiod names them Themis's daughters in one part of the Theogony, but elsewhere in that very same poem, he lists the Moirai as daughters of Nyx, primordial night, born with no father at all. An inconsistency ancient scholars noticed too, and one that suggests even the Greeks themselves couldn't fully agree on whether fate answered to cosmic order or to something older and darker still. Which means the goddess of cosmic order didn't just represent fate abstractly. She literally gave birth to the forces that enforce it, and to the specific virtues, order, justice, and peace that quietly decide whether a civilization actually holds together or eventually falls apart. Apollo's own episode, still ahead on this channel, will cover how he founded the Oracle at Delphi by slaying the Python and claiming the site for himself. What that future telling won't get to is who held that oracle before him. Several ancient sources describe Themis as an early keeper of the Delphic Oracle, inheriting it directly from Gaia before Apollo's arrival displaced her. The Homeric hymn to Apollo even places her at Apollo's own infancy, describing Themis personally feeding the newborn god nectar and ambrosia on the island of Delos, meaning the same goddess who would later lose Delphi to Apollo is, in an earlier myth, one of the figures who helped raise him. The most famous prophetic site in the entire ancient Greek world, in other words, passed through the goddess of order before it ever belonged to the god of prophecy most people naturally associate with it today. Themis's story intersects directly with an episode we've already covered. In Aeschylus's tragedy, Prometheus Bound, the chained Titan names his own mother not as Clymene, the Oceanid Hesiod credits in the Theogony, but as Themis or Gaia, one form with many names. Aeschylus treats the two goddesses as effectively interchangeable, blending Themis's identity with Gaia's so completely that ancient audiences apparently accepted both as valid without needing the discrepancy resolved. If Aeschylus's version is taken at face value, Themis isn't just a fellow Titaness who happens to share a season with Prometheus. She's his own mother, quietly watching a son she bore get chained to a mountain for defying the exact same king she herself chose to marry. Themis's role as a source of guidance appears again in the myth of the Great Flood. When Zeus, angered by human wickedness, sent a flood to destroy humanity, only Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha survived, guided to safety by advance warning from Prometheus. Afterward, desperate to repopulate the empty earth, the couple prayed to Themis for guidance. Her instructions were deliberately cryptic. "Throw the bones of your mother behind you." Deucalion eventually realized she meant the stones of Gaia, Mother Earth herself. The stones they threw transformed into the first new humans, making Themis, alongside Prometheus, a second figure directly responsible for humanity's continued existence after a catastrophe Zeus himself had caused. Beyond prophecy and family, Themis held a specific, almost bureaucratic role among the gods. She was responsible for properly convening divine assemblies, ensuring the gods gathered and conducted their business according to correct order and procedure. It's a detail that rarely makes for dramatic mythology on its own, but one surviving fragment attached to it is genuinely startling. According to the Cypria, a lost epic summarized by later ancient sources, Zeus and Themis together conceived the plan for the Trojan War specifically as a way to relieve an earth grown dangerously overpopulated with mortals. Meaning the goddess most associated with balance and cosmic order may have had a direct hand in engineering one of the bloodiest and most consequential wars in all of Greek mythology. Not to punish humanity, but to restore a kind of terrible equilibrium to a world that had grown too full. The fragment survives only because the later scholar Proclus summarized the now lost epic's contents, and some modern classicists argue the passage may be a later interpolation rather than an original part of the poem. Even so, it was accepted widely enough in antiquity that ancient audiences were comfortable holding two versions of Themis in their heads at once, the impartial keeper of balance and the goddess willing to help start a war to restore it. It's a detail rarely mentioned outside specialist sources, and one that complicates the idea of Themis as a purely benevolent figure of fairness. Before it turns out Themis may not have just warned Zeus about the danger, but helped arrange it. Take a second to like and subscribe. In several ancient sources, it's actually Themis, not Prometheus, who first warned Zeus about the prophecy we discussed 2 episodes ago, that a child of the sea nymph Thetis would grow to surpass his father. Whether the warning came from Themis, from Prometheus, or from both independently depends on which ancient source you're reading. But either way, the goddess of cosmic order and the titan of forethought arrive at the same conclusion. Some outcomes are dangerous enough that even a king needs to be told the truth, whether he wants to hear it or not. Read alongside the Cypria fragment from the previous scene. It paints a more complicated picture than wise goddess protects the world. The same figure capable of warning Zeus away from one catastrophe may have helped engineer another. Much of what we know about Themis comes from Hesiod's Theogony, which establishes her marriage to Zeus and her children, and later Greek and Roman art, where she began appearing consistently holding scales and, eventually, a blindfold, symbols meant to represent impartial, balanced judgment. That image didn't come from Themis alone. Rome adapted her directly into the goddess Iustitia, whom the Emperor Augustus formally established with her own temple cult as a personification of imperial justice, fusing Themis's Greek identity with a distinctly Roman civic one. Augustus's Ara Pacis, the altar of Augustan peace still standing in Rome today, even carries imagery scholars connect to this same lineage. A serene, seated goddess flanked by symbols of abundance and order, echoing Themis's original portfolio nearly 1,000 years after Hesiod first wrote her down. Modern Lady Justice, the blindfolded figure holding scales that still stands outside courthouses and legal institutions across the world today, is really a composite of three separate goddesses layered quietly on top of each other over centuries. Themis herself, her daughter Dike, who once walked among mortals before retreating permanently into the stars, and Rome's own Iustitia, making the familiar statue less a portrait of one single figure than a quiet monument to an entire family's shared, generations-deep obsession with balance. Themis's legacy is unique among the titans we've covered this season. She wasn't punished like Kronos, didn't suffer like Prometheus, didn't lose everything like Atlas, and didn't simply survive quietly like Oceanus. She was actively chosen, integrated directly into the new order, and trusted with responsibilities, prophecy, guidance, family, procedure, even if the Cypria is to be believed the darker calculus of war. That mattered as much after the Titanomachy as before it, and that no single myth about her fully resolves into pure benevolence or pure calculation. In a season about how the old generation of gods responded to losing their war, Themis represents the one path none of her siblings took, becoming so essential to order itself that the god who won the war needed her standing beside him, not beneath him, consulted rather than conquered. That's it for the Titans, for now. We've covered 5 so far: Kronos, Prometheus, Atlas, Oceanus, and Themis, each responding to the same collapse of their world in a completely different, genuinely revealing way. More of this pantheon's history is still ahead. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next.